jurisdiction, then he couldn't arrest him on that kidnapping charge too.
If he saw a kidnapping taking place, the officer could arrest him under that code. But what he can't do is when there's a traffic code violation, we don't allow for example, the El Paso Police Department to come to Houston and then sit on the street corner and arrest people for traffic violations. We don't allow them to make those stops. And that's what's at issue here, is a peace officer who's outside of his jurisdiction able to enforce the traffic code.
I know where you're going and I've seen it before, but I'm not.
G1 bringing a shared code book at the moment. We may have to have you look at a couple interesting things.
Okay.
And this is on the Trevor Flores case, Judge, and I think you visited with that gentleman earlier. He's present here in the courtroom at the moment.
Okay.
But I got the case this morning. I've had a chance to do a kind of little bit of digging into. Yes. And although we are still waiting for the bulk of discovery in the case, he's charged with unlawful carrying of a weapon following a traffic stop. And I've got a map that is kind of intriguing. I think you'll find just with the way it's drawn. But he stopped by an officer with the City of Bel Air Police Department, and may I approach to just show you this delineation. This is, but he's pulled over going.
I know the area well.
Northbound. He's pulled over going northbound on 610 as what is described as makes an unsafe lane change. So he's northbound on 610, wants to get on 59 to go southbound, is erroneously in the wrong lane going northbound. The officer says that she has observed him makes that unsafe lane change, and that lane change is outside of the City of Bel Air Police Department jurisdiction. Now, we have a particular statute that governs whether officers can have the authority to make a detention of someone when they are outside of their jurisdiction, and that's 14.03 of
Their PD can still stop someone outside of Bel Air.
Well, not for, well, according to the code, it says a peace officer.
That would mean that any officer outside would never be able to do anything.
No, that's incorrect. There's a very limited exception, and that's what applies in this case. So it says a peace officer who's licensed and is outside of the officer's jurisdiction may arrest without a warrant a person who commits any offense within the officer's presence or view other than a violation of subtitle C, Title 7 of the Transportation Code. So generally any offense that an officer sees, he can arrest that person or detain them, as the way the code uses that term, arrest. He can detain that person. But when it's for a traffic offense, that officer is required.
He's not arresting him for a traffic offense, though.
Well, that was the basis for the stop.
Sure.
But the way the code contemplates arrest, it's any, and that's defined in, I think, in chapter 15. But arrest, as contemplated by the code, includes detention. And so this officer doesn't have the ability, where that stop takes place, to make that detention. That officer could detain him if he saw him committing theft, could detain him if he saw him committing an assault, can't for a transportation code.
But he stops him for whatever reason it is, right? Comes up to the car and he smells marijuana.
Yes.
Right? And then don't they even get a drug sniffing dog? Is this the one where they get a drug sniffing dog and they find the weed and?
No, Your Honor, that's it.
Was that a different case?
No, it's a different case, Judge. But the handgun, I believe, was in
plain view.
No, I think it's so I think what's alleged is it's in conjunction with possession of marijuana, and for purposes of just this limited PC question, not my focus is solely the detention. I'm not.
It's certainly crafty. It's great, but he's not arresting him for the traffic offense.
Well. But I think we're looking at a limited scope of what arrest means. So I think you're looking at arrest as in being arrested.
You would be saying that really if he had committed an ag rob, right, or kidnapping, then.
At the center of this intense courtroom exchange lies a high-stakes legal battle over jurisdiction and the limits of police authority, turning a seemingly routine traffic stop into a deeply complex constitutional question. The defense attorney presents a bold and strategic argument, asserting that the officer acted outside his lawful jurisdiction, thereby rendering the entire stop invalid from the very beginning. He leans heavily on statutory language, attempting to draw a strict line between what the law permits, arrests under certain conditions, and what it prohibits, detentions for minor traffic violations beyond city limits. Judge Fleischer, however, doesn't accept this argument at face value and begins to challenge its broader implications. He raises critical concerns about whether such a narrow interpretation of the law would unintentionally tie the hands of law enforcement, especially in scenarios where a simple stop could uncover serious criminal activity like illegal weapons or narcotics. The discussion intensifies as both sides dissect the nuanced distinction between detention and arrest, with the judge questioning whether the legislature truly intended for these terms to be treated so differently in practice. This moment becomes the turning point of the hearing, as legal theory collides with real-world enforcement, and every word of the statute is scrutinized. The tension builds as it becomes clear that the outcome of the case may hinge on how this single legal distinction is interpreted, making it not just a debate about one traffic stop, but a broader question about the reach and limits of police power
across state lines. Well, then, according to this, because he's in a different jurisdiction, then you couldn't arrest him on that kidnapping charge
If
too.
he saw a kidnapping taking place, the officer could arrest him under that code. But what he can't do is when there's a traffic code violation, we don't allow for example, the El Paso Police Department to come to Houston and then sit on the street corner and arrest people for traffic violations. We don't allow them to make those stops. And that's what's at issue here, is a peace officer who's outside of his jurisdiction able to enforce the traffic
I
code.
know where you're going and I've seen it before, but I'm not.
And we're looking at G1, Judge.
Mr. Williams, taking your time.
Where exactly did it occur anyways?
Let me see if I can pull up
So I
the
think-
address. We don't have like any discovery in
Sure.
this case. I don't have any dash cam or anything like that.
So what it says in there is 5600, 610 northbound. And what's so curious about this is
Is that still in Bel Air? Is it outside of
that
Bel
would be
Air?
outside of Bel Air too. And going northbound, southbound lanes are covered in the city of Bel Air. The northbound lanes, for some reason, are not.
I don't know. We'd have to look closer. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
mean,
happy to
it's
look
something
further
that
into this.
You have to look. I mean,
can't make
I
any-
can't make that determination now.
fair enough.
Number two,
Yes.
he's not arresting him on a traffic offense.
Well, and I think what the code contemplates when it says arrest, and I think there's case law on this, is that it includes the concept of detention as that's been, because I think when that code was written.
And so what I'm saying would apply as well, though. Like if he catches a 2-year-old kid, right, that's been kidnapped, by your theory, he wouldn't be able to arrest him on a kidnapping charge too.
Well, it's not my theory, it's the code.
If he has a dead body in the car, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, that's a legislature question. And I mean, but they wrote that.
I can't imagine that the legislature intended that. I think that they intended for, yes, for a traffic, let's say for speeding, right? Or your tail light is out. Yeah, not to arrest in that respect. But he goes up to the car, smells marijuana, sees a gun in plain view. I can't imagine the legislature intended in that purpose.
And my position, of course, is that, this may be for a motion to suppress later down the line, and I think there's still
But it's
plenty more to do in the
it's a
case.
freaking awesome argument.
Well, but the idea
I love you.
is
Mr. You're wonderful.
no right to
Right?
detain him.
Right? Really?
I appreciate the judge, and we'll get.
I'm not ready yet, but build it. If you build it, they will come. And then we'll take a look down the road and yeah,
Thank you, Judge.
for sure.
As the hearing moves toward its conclusion, the courtroom remains charged with tension, as no immediate ruling is delivered. Judge Fleischer acknowledges the defense attorney's argument as both creative and thought-provoking, but makes it clear that such a complex legal issue cannot be decided on the spot. Instead, he emphasizes the need for deeper legal research and careful consideration, signaling that the court will revisit the matter after thoroughly examining the statutes and relevant case law. This leaves both the prosecution and defense in a state of anticipation, knowing that the final decision could significantly impact the direction of the case. If the court ultimately agrees with the defense, it could challenge the validity of the traffic stop and potentially weaken the prosecution's position. On the other hand, if the argument is rejected, it may reinforce broader authority for law enforcement in similar situations. The uncertainty surrounding the ruling only adds to the intensity of the case, turning this moment into a crucial pause before a potentially game-changing decision. With so much at stake, this legal battle is far from finished, and what happens next could set an important precedent. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intense courtroom moments and updates as this case continues to unfold.